All right. Welcome, everybody. We are on day 11 of our 30-day challenge. And today I'm going to be talking about a very important topic that has to do with our ability to create, our ability to heal. And one of the primary things that really blocks our ability to manifest and to begin to expand our inner light, to expand our core self. And one of those, and it really goes all the way back to childhood in the very beginning of our life. All of the programs and belief systems that we are embodying in our body play a tremendous role in the way that we lead our life, in how we respond to events, and how we are dealing with our own internal dialogue, how we see ourselves, how we present ourselves. So the question really comes down to, after working with hundreds of people, is the idea of, are we more making choices to self-soothe the pain, the suffering, and the trauma that we've endured throughout our lifetime? And sometimes that trauma and that suffering kind of was very, very subtle, in a way where we weren't 100% aware that we were actually self-soothing and creating a personality, creating a behavior in order to adjust to these kind of traumatic events that were occurring around us. And so from the womb, we are already in the womb beginning to create behaviors that begin to soothe ourselves from the suffering. As a soul that comes in, incarnating into the physical body, into the womb as a fetus, in that moment, in that conception of life, it's already creating an explosion, a charge of frequency that is already encoded with the information that is in combination with the mother and father frequency. The mother and father have a frequency that are united through resonance. And this is the case with very romantic relationships and unions, and this is the case with very traumatic and perhaps abusive relationships. It's even the case in very traumatic, all of a sudden pregnancies, for example. The union of two organisms or two human beings is actually designed, pre-designed in a sense, by the vibrational resonance. And the human that incarnates in the physical body already has contractual agreements with the people it's going to be interacting with. And what that means is that we are meeting the people that we have agreed to interact with. And we are also, in a sense, choosing the timelines with the kind of people that we are going to be choosing. Each timeline that we choose is usually populated with different groups of vibrational resonance. And in those vibrational resonance, people, places, and things that match those experiences and events that match that resonance. So when we are incarnating into the physical body, we are also creating that spark of life that begins to generate this energy of life force, creative life force. And that life force is informed by everything that our mother and father has experienced. But in addition to that, we as a soul have our own contractual agreements on the highest level that allow us to agree to the kind of experiences and because of the vibrational match that we are, because of all the experiences that we've ever had in the collective, because we are experiencing simultaneously other aspects of ourselves, all of those aspects of yourselves that are interconnected to the whole and to all and to everyone else is at a certain point in its evolution that requires certain experiences to push it forward, to experience that part. And it's not so much as it is required for that evolution, but the soul is choosing to experience evolution through those experiences. So we will often incarnate into family lineages in which we might find that we have a lot of trauma, a lot of resistance, a lot of very, very difficult and challenging experiences. And many people ask, why am I in this family? I don't feel like I belong here. I feel like I am completely disconnected from all my family. I'm very different from my family. And I don't understand why I am a part of this family. And in fact, when you go deeper into the understanding of the lineage and your creation, who you've become, the personality that you've created, All of that is a direct result of everything that you've picked up from your lineage. But when you go deeper into that, you begin to realize that there's a repetitive pattern that's repeating itself, not just in this lifetime, but in alternate lifetimes as well, in simultaneous lifetimes, in which you are also living out and exploring the potential evolution through this kind of lesson, per se, or experience, or transcending the limitation within the belief systems that you're meant to challenge in this lifetime. So it's very interesting that we begin to discover, where our higher organism is traveling, where its curiosities lie, where its challenges lie. And we manifest experiences, we manifest lifetimes, we manifest everything that we're experiencing in order to challenge those aspects of ourselves and create that fusion that creates transmutation, that creates transformation, and ultimately evolves, pushes the organism through the evolutionary process. And we do so in the three-dimensional plane as well as in all the dimensional planes going to the highest infinite existence, because we are one organism. You are me, I am you. If we are here interconnected with one another, you and I have something that's in resonance with one another. Not only are we genetically uh, linked, connected to one another, just 2,000 years, you and I have had a relative in common. So we all are experiencing collectively similar programs. And on planet Earth, one of the biggest reasons why we come in to experience duality or the physical and is to experience separation, to understand what separation is, to allow the organism to experience separation, and in that existence, in that agreement to experience separation, to learn how to come back from that separation into unity. This is what we are all here to do on this planet from the highest level. And it doesn't matter what journey you're taking, how your story goes, the journey that you chose to take in order to learn that lesson. All of us are learning that exact lesson, how to embody the unity. And we might be learning that unity reintegration in many different translations of that, in many different dimensional planes. And we are doing that in other dimensional planes simultaneously as well. And this is kind of like the natural design of the organism. Will the organism stay together or will it self-destruct? The reason why this is the base design or the blueprint for all living organisms is because it's a matter of sustainability. It's a matter of continued life. And as we know, in order to sustain this massive intelligence of organisms that are made up of you and I, of the universe, of the cosmos, of the multiverse, all of it is experiencing itself through infinite possibilities. So it's a never-ending cycle of exploration in many different potential experiences. So that's the macro. Let's bring it back to the micro here on Earth and the timelines that we've chosen in our family lives. When we incarnate into the family, we come into these families that are designed specifically to trigger the cyclical patterns, the resonance that we are currently experiencing at this time. And so what that means is that all of the challenges that we're going to have are based on the beliefs that are created from the womb. The moment that you are in the womb, and this is where I work with my clients in DNA reprogramming, taking them back to the womb and beginning to observe, what is the emotion that our mother was feeling? Because all of the emotions that a mother feels at the time of gestation is creating an environment vibrationally for the fetus to be absorbing, to be surrounded by that. And there is a moment of contrast where the soul in that moment is still very much connected to its source and to its origin point. So there begins in that moment a disassociation between the bliss and unity that it's familiar with and the experience of being in the womb and experiencing all of those contrasting emotions from the mother, for example, stress or rejection of herself or fears, anxieties, not being ready, not being loved by the partner, not feeling safe in her environment. All of these potential emotions are ones that inform and immediately design an energetic field for the child to begin to experience what life is going to be like the moment they leave the womb and come into the world. So, in that moment, we begin to experience the separation through an understanding that there must be a survival, or there is not any safety. There isn't a net of safety. Of course, for a lot of star seeds and very awakened and advanced beings like yourself that are already very awake at such a young age, even in the womb, you already knew, you had a feeling that this emotions are contrasting truth, because in your divine blueprint, you already know that the place of highest creation is that unity, and you embody that unconditional love, that unity, that warmth to all things. So when you begin to feel this contrasting, it immediately pushes most organisms into a disassociation where the emotions become so overwhelming that we want to disconnect from the physical body. And in that moment at birth begins the journey of the human that is now continuing to strengthen the beliefs that we are separate from the source. So as we come into birth, we begin to experience our mother and our father. And the mother and father represent the divine feminine and masculine. These are the two uniting creative forces. As we see in fractal design in the universe, these forces, when they come together, they begin to create life. And any time that these forces are not playing in their balanced, in their own empowerment, in their own balanced role, we begin to have distorted vision and understanding of these forces in ourselves, because we mirror what we learned from the feminine and we mirror what we learned from the masculine, and we take that as our truth because this is what we are experiencing. And oftentimes, as children, there is already an understanding, a clear understanding that there is something off about that behavior or incomplete because it causes chaos and very heavy emotions in the body. That resistance that we come into feeling, whether we're feeling too much anxiety outside or whatever emotion you're feeling, we create this kind of constant resistance and survival mechanism in the body. And that causes a tremendous amount of stress for the child as it's growing up through its early development years. Up until the age of 7, the child begins to formulate and is encoded, is embedded how it's going to perceive life, how it's going to perceive creation, how it's going to perceive feminine, masculine, sexual relationships in general. All of these very important basic laws of creation become completely distorted by taking on the beliefs of incomplete humans, right? So the human that has incomplete belief systems, that hasn't done the work to heal themselves and become whole. So this is where, when we really understand this, and looking at our current, world around us, to me, one of the most important things that we should be focusing on is on the education of parenting and also of our children, because the parents become the god-like figure that begins to embed in the child all of these belief systems about themselves and about the world. So it really becomes a very important and very heavy responsibility, because everything that we feel, our child feels. The child feels and intuitively, because they're completely open until the age of 7, incredibly intuitive. And most of these very advanced children, starseed children, are intuitive way, all the time until the teen years. Sometimes that becomes disconnected earlier on because of traumas and things like that. But most children are incredibly intuitive, and they have the ability of tuning in to information that is non-physical, and they listen with their body. They are absorbing the vibrational emanations that the parents are giving off as emotional information. Emotion is vibration, of course. So the child is feeling that vibrational frequency of frustration, anger, any feelings that the person has about themselves, the child picks up on very subtly and subconsciously. And all of that is feeding into their perception of how they feel about themselves and how relationships should be formulated moving forward. So, that being said, the child begins to create all kinds of mechanisms, survival mechanisms. And this is where personality then begins to become constructed. The personality of the child begins to create based on all of these belief systems. And oftentimes, this is why by the time the child becomes an adult, we begin to feel so many conflicts with our personality in the world outside and our core belief system because we find that, there is so much contrast going on. And that contrast, oh, let me plug this in case anyone's having trouble. That contrast precisely is what causes the person to not want to be in the body. So, what we end up having is a lot of people that want to disassociate with trauma, with stressful experiences. We have people that are, the empaths that are highly sensitive to information. And it's even worse for the child that is an empath, that is constantly aware of all energies and emotional information around them, where it becomes completely difficult for them to identify their own and the other. And this carries on into adulthood, but even worse, it doesn't know what its own is because it's been absorbing and implementing the belief systems of the parents in themselves. So really the child has not had the chance to develop its own awareness, its own state of being, its own personality, real self actually, not personality, because the personality is kind of like this illusionary construct that we create in order to survive, in order to adjust in a survival mode, self-soothing a lot of suffering. And in that suffering, because it's so powerful, begin to readjust ourselves based on whatever experience is occurring. So it is incredibly important to become aware of that because in our lives, the question is, are we constantly choosing behaviors that are self-soothing to ourselves, our traumas and our pains? Or are we in a power state of creation, which is congruent with our true self? And the answer, unfortunately, is that the majority of us have not spent a lot of time trying to find out who the true self is. We are just a complete combination of all kinds of adapted belief systems based on survival. So this is where we really need to, as adults, as parents, really carefully take a look at that. And when we see our child reacting, a lot of times when our child is acting out or behaving in ways, always in order to gain attention or communicate in some way. So always pay attention to that as a parent. But more importantly, take a look at your own inner child, right? Because the child, the problem is that when we experience trauma, the moment that that fragmentation occurs is when we become emotionally paralyzed. That's when we begin to create paralysis. And oftentimes people will begin utilizing drugs and doing stuff like that. But anytime we start adapting addicting behaviors to kind of overcompensate for the overwhelm of these traumatic emotions, oftentimes we're gonna want to leave our body, and we'll find any means to do that. Most of us are not in the physical body feeling the emotions, and we talked about this yesterday. And also, I believe it was Monday, where we're having a hard time dealing with heavy emotions. So that's something that's trained. And so over time with repetitive trauma. So we have to support ourselves in the moments that we become stressed out, in the moments that we become overwhelmed with life experiences, so that we can create a really strong foundation that is supportive of the parts of us that have been wounded through our childhood. And the quicker we take the time to meditate and identify the childhood wounds, the quicker we'll be able to reintegrate, broaden the perspective of those experiences, and begin to change, how we are responding moving forward. This is actually the real the reason why these meditations are powerful, it's because this kind of work is exactly what is needed for the human to come forward in that agreement that it made when it comes into this lifetime to experience all the challenges it has. And it begins to choose now, to choose this consciousness, awareness of themselves, that free will, is it feels different. It's more expansive, it's more congruent, and this is where we start coming into the laws of creation and begin to manifest effortlessly. Okay. So, in today's meditation, I would like to take you on a little journey where we begin to kind of go over some of these things. And what we really want to look at is, where are we in our daily life soothing parts of ourselves that we know need to be healed? Okay, and are we in a constant state of survival mode? Or are we in a state of creation? Because we cannot create from a place of survival. This completely will not happen because your entire organism, emotionally, physically, energetically, on all levels, isn't in, it doesn't have the tools to do it. So, if you're in the lower chakras in a state of fear and anxiety and stress, not only are you inducing chemicals in the body that create, inflammation and sickness over time, but that biological part of you begins to create blockages in your life. And the emotional and psychological part also begins to create blockages where we won't be able to move forward. And so we create these continued blockages over and over again. So, finding what the patterns are, take a moment to take a look at, throughout your day, the past 24 hours, how many times are we self-soothing? Where are we feeling overwhelmed with the experiences that are happening around us? And where are we constantly adjusting ourselves in order to feel okay in certain circumstances and situations? And or where are we becoming very conscious and aware in that moment with our emotions and beginning to create consciously? So choosing how we're going to respond, choosing what we're going to interact with, and completely changing the way that we are experiencing life. So let's get into it. All right, my loves. So I want to say hi to everyone. Thank you so much. Luana, welcome. RR, so good to have you here. Anita, so happy to have you. Alina, Ben, hey Ben, Anita, finding the Starseed family on our list. I love this. Yes, please connect with one another, guys. Eon Kalpa, deep calls to deep. My favor, joy, abundance, health, safety, bliss, infuse you surround. Oh, thank you so much, Eon. So beautiful. Bless you too, my love. Anita, Luana, Alina, so true. Joe Pesci, why have I been having weird dreams and losing memory of them quicker than usual? That's interesting. I would really suggest that we are working on practicing your lucid dreaming and becoming aware in in states when you're leaving the physical body, and you can do so by beginning to become aware during the daytime. So always checking into your body, your five senses, and being in the present moment. And that daily practice will carry out in dream time. In dream time, as you become aware that you're dreaming more and more through practice, you'll be able to understand exactly why you're having the dreams. When there are weird dreams, weird dreams, it's because there's a lot of communication actually going on there. So I would really pay attention to those dreams, to take a look at what exactly we're interacting, more importantly how you felt in the dream. And if you are losing memory of them and forgetting about them, notice what triggered the moment, what happened up until that moment when you began to lose memory, and to kind of broaden. In meditation, you can revisit the dream, take yourself back to that moment, and remote view what was occurring in that dream. And oftentimes the communication is very metaphor, it's in metaphor form. So it'll allow you to kind of dive deep into that kind of information and see what it means to you. And I really advise that you do that. All right, my love. So let's see. Does childhood trauma keep one stagnant somewhat when it comes to self-realization? Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of exactly what I was talking about um, because our belief system, our we're only seeing the world from our limitations. It's like that saying, you can only love someone, as much as you've loved yourself, or as long as you know love. If you've never known love, or if you've never understood what love is, because of your life, your as a child and all the experiences that you have, how who will be the instructor in your life? Oftentimes we have to be pioneers in that. All of us are pioneers. We have to walk ourselves through what love means. We have to walk ourselves through what it means to be whole, to be successful. All of these things are usually completely different than what the world outside of us is designing for us, is showing us externally. So, what happens is that trauma then becomes really deeply ingrained in the way that we're responding, behaving, and seeing, processing events. So, it definitely becomes a tremendous blockage, and that's what we want to kind of move out. Alina says we have to go back to our childhood to reparent ourselves in love and to guide our children. Yes, that's right. Sometimes I feel 10 steps ahead, other times I feel 10 steps behind. That's okay, Joe. It's a process. And you don't forget that there is no pinnacle moment. We are always moving in the same direction. We're always healing. We are all students and we are all masters of this information because we are just remembering what we knew. And we're living alternate lifetimes in which we may be way more advanced. So what that means is don't be hard on yourself. That's number one. Don't judge there is no progress to be kept. It's, are you living well in this moment? Are you congruent? Are you in a state of love? Are you creating in this moment? That's the most important thing. If we're thinking about, 10 steps ahead, 10 steps back, our mind is in the past and in the future. It's not in the now. In the now, there is none of that. There is no good or bad. There is only what exists in this moment. So that congruency is actually going, you're going to find it's actually the most liberating, most expansive, and most teaching for us in your spiritual work. All right, my love. Lauren says, hey, it's the first time I ever made it to live. Thank you so much, Lauren. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. D. Elizabeth, hi, Geraldine. Thank you for this wisdom. You are working. Mary Bond, good morning. Lauren says, why are there parts of me that are afraid of being conscious? Ooh, such a powerful question, Lauren, because that understanding, that realization is really, really important. And in my early journey, that is something that I recognized immediately when I began to go into long meditations. And sometimes it became very, very scary. Like I felt almost threatened by the information that I would find there. One, I found that I wasn't ready to see myself for who I really was. Two, I there was so much shame and guilt that was unresolved in regards to myself and my understanding of things, that it became very difficult to see the truths about myself and others in the light of truth, right? So um and I think three, the whole point of being in this dualistic experience is to understand contrast, and again to experience separation and unity. So this, you're right on track. This is all part of what this healing is about, and you're at that point where you are recognizing the separation. So that's the first step. So now that you've recognized the separation, the question is, how do you get from separate to unity? How do you come back to that whole? And so as you take a look at the parts that you're fearful of looking at, in your healing work, the parts that are don't want to become conscious are the parts that are, it's usually the ego that is defending parts of ourselves. It's wounded children within us that are afraid to see themselves, are afraid to see their pain, are afraid to see the truth. And we're going to experience that in our work within ourselves. And we're going to experience that when we begin to see the truth of others. And that's something that we have to prepare ourselves for. How to help yourself in that process is to stop looking at things from with like right and wrong. That will be your saving grace for everyone that is in the journey to understanding unity, is to stop compartmentalizing things, stop looking at things as right and wrong, because there is no right and wrong. When you go deep and understand that everything is cause and effect, people are a result of suffering and traumas, and we are all a collection in this world of traumatized people. Okay, we're all traumatized. We're traumatized because we are of source, we are of the infinite. And when we come into earth, we are forced to experience separation through our physical body, through this holographic illusion matrix that we are experiencing, through emotions, through the psychology of things, and through the very deeply compartmentalized realities that we are all participating in. So just that life then becomes, very split up and fragmented. So as we begin to bring ourselves back to us, the observer, it begins to become a little bit easier to kind of look at this contrast, look at this separation, look at the suffering, and see yourself in all of those things, see yourself in that separation. And that's where it's going to become easier. And the parts that see for the first time are the parts that become conscious. So that's why they have that all-seeing eye, the eye that sees everything, right? And also in many ancient religions, they have the eyes on the hands, or the thousand eyes around the body, or the thousand Buddhas, for example. All of those are an analogy of our parts, the fragments of ourselves that need to become aware. And they become aware through recognizing that they exist, and recognizing and being able to see all of those contrasts that they've experienced. So this is really important. And this is something that, is part of, Warrior 101. You're doing great, Lauren, if you're at that point. But remember that tool. Don't judge what you're experiencing. All right, my loves, let's get started. Thank you so much. We're going to start by inhaling deeply. With every breath you take, allowing yourself to completely go into a state of complete relaxation. Breathing deeply. Okay. Go ahead and taking a moment to feel comfortable in the stillness, in the silence, silencing the mind. And we're going to go entering into our observer. We are grounded. We are protected as we create our sphere around us. Working with the root chakra, closing the root. Closing the sacral. Closing the solar. Opening the heart, front and back. Opening the throat chakra. Opening that blue light, expanding that blue light from the throat. Opening the third eye. Breathing deeply. Going up to the crown. Activating the crown. Go ahead and enter your color into all the sections of your life. career, relationship, family, intuition, health, abundance, money, creation, your spiritual work, and purpose. Seventh and eighth chakra are glowing with your creative color. Breathing deeply. Pulling up green energy from the earth up into the body, creating a vortex of energy. The more still you sit, the more you'll be able to feel the wave of green light moving through your body. It's very powerful. And oftentimes you might find yourself rocking back and forth. That's okay. We're soothing the body as it heals, as it picks up the debris. From the universe, from source, bring down cosmic light in through the crown of your head, combine it with the earth, swirling it in a vortex of energy around your entire organism of 13 layers, picking up debris. Focus, quiet the mind and focus. You're going to take 10%, send it back down to the center of the earth, anchoring your energy, anchoring cosmic energy at the center of the earth. Take 80%, send it up your spine from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your protective field. Clearing the illusion of the matrix. Letting go of people, places, and things that no longer are in alignment with you. Go ahead and cut cords with everyone you've come in contact with today to neutralize whatever we are throwing back and forth energetically. And as you cut it on their end, you're going to inhale, taking back your life force in your body, calling all our life force from anywhere that we've depleted ourselves or expelled our life force energy out. We're going to bring it back into the body. Any unconscious leaking of life force returns. Begin to bring that golden light, that your own light is purified gold as it returns to your body, untainted by any connections to people, places, and things. It's pure gold light that returns to the body. And you can begin to bring it back to the solar plexus where it begins to accumulate in that center vortex of light. Breathing deeply. Going back to the solar plexus, go ahead and take that final 10% up your spine and from your arms. Go ahead and fill the inside of your protective field, and you're going to heal your body now. Cosmic and earth energy enter into the body, into the pores, healing the pores, healing the skin, healing the muscles, repairing any damage, any tension in the body, down to the bones, bringing awareness to all the skeletal system of the body. Going down to the cells now as we enter into the molecular level of the body. Allowing the cells to absorb this healing, to rebalance itself, to neutralize. And you're going to begin to observe any heavy emotions that you've had today, and you're just going to release them out of your body, down to the center of the earth. Breathing. So just take one moment here to enjoy this as you feel the energy running through the body. Those of you that have had a busy day will really benefit from this moment of meditation. You will really benefit from this healing. Breathing deeply with every breath that you take. Holding space for this healing for all that meditate at this time, and setting the intention that everyone that's in this meditation receives the highest information for their highest evolution, their highest good. Now that you're here, I want you to begin to observe your day. And as you scan the things that you've done today, from the moment you opened your eyes, begin to observe the very first emotion that you felt the moment you woke up this morning. What was the first emotion that came into your body? Notice that. And go ahead and notice in your body, where does that emotion live in your body? Just notice that for a moment. And just keep going to your morning, your breakfast, your morning routines, families, friends, children. As you begin to start perhaps your work day or just your busy day, go ahead and start to notice the emotions throughout your day. And I want you to notice where resistance starts to creep into the body. At what point throughout your day do we begin to embody resistance? Okay, resistance can be identified as feelings of anxiety, feelings of stress, feelings of overwhelm, feelings of doing things we don't want to do, having to do them anyway, feelings of anger, frustration. Anytime that the body tenses up in order to cope. And so that's the next step. I want you to notice, where are you coping? How many times today were you in a position where you were coping rather than consciously acting and behaving? Notice that. Go ahead and scan the rest of your day. If you're just starting your day now, if this is morning for you, you can look at your yesterday. You can look at yesterday because it's going to be the same. So go ahead and take a look at it as you observe all of the moments of your day. And as you begin to observe those moments where you are coping, I want you to notice yourself in those moments. How does it feel to be coping, to be resisting in those moments? Go ahead and tap into your body. Notice what parts of the body tense up, even just as you are remembering them. This is where you are storing your habits. So I want you to feel that emotion, that coping emotion, or that struggling or that stress. And I want you to ask yourself, how familiar are you with this kind of emotion? Notice that. How familiar are you? Without judging, without any resistance, be as honest, brutally honest as you can with yourself. A lot of times we want to sugarcoat things for ourselves and say, oh, I'm fine. Go ahead and try to be as honest as possible as you observe these things, fearlessly looking at the truth. I want you to take yourself back now to the very first time where you had to embody this same kind of coping mechanism, same kind of resistance to these experiences. Take yourself back to the very first time in your life that you felt that you had to embody this kind of resistance in order to protect yourself. Take yourself there. Take yourself back. You can go as far back as the womb. You can go back to a childhood memory. You can go to a memory last month. Just take yourself to the one that comes up the most for you. What you'll discover is that it's also a pattern. Go ahead and take yourself there. And as you begin to observe that memory, go ahead and notice, is this something that we've experienced throughout our life, perhaps? And as you see yourself in this now first memory, you're going to begin to observe yourself. What's happening there? What's causing you to want to resist, to come into a state of self preservation, self protection? What's happening in that moment makes you want to feel anxiety, stress? Notice who you're with. And just gently begin to observe yourself. How are you feeling? What are the things that are being said or the events that are occurring that are making you want to protect yourself? It can be something very subtle or it could be something very vivid. You're just watching it on a screen, safely observing as if it were a movie. And as you see yourself there in this experience, I want you to surround yourself in a golden sphere of light, kind of removing yourself for a moment from what you're experiencing and begin to check in with yourself in that moment. What would be the opposite of the emotions that you're feeling in this moment? If you are in a state of survival, what is the opposite of survival? If you're in a place of fear, what's the opposite of fear? If you're in a place of resistance, what's the opposite of resistance? Identify the opposite of what you're feeling. And I want you to see the other person that's with you. Do they embody the tools to know the opposite of this experience? Do they embody this? Look at them, observe them. Do they have the tools within them to be able to provide the opposite kind of experience for you in that moment? And I want you to look at why that is. Whatever the answer is, why is that? As you begin to observe that, you will notice that the people that you're interacting with are also a product of similar kind of situations. Okay. So if you were the best friend of this person, freezing that picture, what would you tell them that they need in order to embody the opposite of this learned experience? What would you tell them? Notice that. How would you instruct them to not feel that way, to change that behavior? And at this time, a lot of really strong emotions probably going to come up because you're going to be noticing that they also feel the exact same overwhelming emotion that you feel. So this is how you've identified the resonance. We have become resonant with this experience for this reason. So go ahead and notice the emotions that are in the body, breathing deeply. And I want you to sit with that emotion in your body. Name out everything that it makes you feel. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's fear, maybe it's anger, maybe it's helplessness. Go ahead and name out all the emotions that you feel. Identify the strongest one. Notice how this strong emotion is actually something that we feel throughout our entire life in many different ways. In fact, this strong emotion that you've just identified is the one that leads all our choices, leads how we see ourselves, how we make choices in our life, how we feel about ourselves in the world. So you've just identified the root cause. So this is the survival mechanism. It is based in that emotion. So I want you to take that emotion and I want you to identify, what do you need in order to no longer feel that emotion? What would you need? Go ahead and see yourself. What do you need to know? What do you need to see? I want you to show yourself, give yourself, allow yourself to feel everything that is the opposite of that emotion. Go ahead and see. A lot of you that are working on this a long time, you'll be able to identify source as yourself. Go ahead and identify how to reach that source as yourself. You might identify love as the source. How can you reach love from that place to love? In this process, you are teaching yourself what unconditional love is, how to embody source. Go ahead and take a look at that. This is really powerful. As you begin to notice, as you begin to instruct yourself, little by little, that heavy emotion begins to kind of gently dissipate. It dissipates. This is healing. This is the real healing. The moment that you've been able to change an emotion in your body and expand that emotion through understanding is actually how you grow your inner light, one by one emotion at a time. So as you see yourself, I want you to see all of the parts of you now that have all these experiences. And I want you to look at your entire life as a whole. Look at all the fragments of yourself throughout your life that have experienced this emotion as the main theme of your choices, fears, desires. And I want you to surround them in a golden sphere of light. And I want you to give them what you've discovered. All of these understandings, all of this understanding of how to embody love, how to embody source. You are instructing them. While you see that there, I want you to see the person that you were with that triggered the emotion. And you're going to shine your crown light on top of them. And you're going to see a cord connecting you and them. This is the chord of resonance. This chord is created the moment that we embody into the physical body. It is pre-planned based on resonance that we are going to experience with this person based on the timelines that we're choosing. So as you see that chord, it's embedded in the organs, it's embedded in the chakra system, it's embedded in the nervous system. Go ahead and visualize cutting that cord on their end, and you're going to pull it out of your body. Pull it out. Pull it out. Inhale deeply. Pull it out. As you pull it out of the body, you'll notice that it's disconnecting gently from different organisms, different chakra systems, and you're going to create a vortex in your room, wherever you are, and you're going to allow to introduce this unconscious part of you. This is the unconscious part of you. The cord is the unconscious. You're going to introduce it into the infinite, into source. Okay, go ahead and send it into that vortex, letting go out of your body, breathing deeply, taking back your life force into your body and releasing what you took on. Okay, breathing deeply. Okay. And you have just neutralized the trigger now. So you're going to go back to your fragments that are healing, and you're going to take them in your body, inhaling deeply, allowing them to integrate. I want you to direct this life force that you're healed into the parts of the body that most were triggered by the emotion to begin with. So maybe it's the belly, maybe it's the lower back, maybe it's the knee, any part of your body. You're going to direct that life force into that part of the body. You've removed the cord. Now you are healing. This is integration. So as you breathe deeply, allowing your body to integrate this healing, I want you to take yourself back now, fast forward to your day or yesterday. And with this newfound wisdom, begin to look at your day now in your mind's eye. Breathing deeply as you begin to observe your day. Now, with this new understanding, notice how your day changes. Go ahead and kind of play through your day from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep or your yesterday. Begin to observe how this new understanding of this emotion shifts the way that you choose to do things. Okay. Do you carry yourself with more compassion? Do you feel more love? Are you able to hold more love in your body because we are not in a state of resistance? So, this could be you every day. You could be in a state of conscious creation instead of constantly self soothing and in a state of survival. So, I want you to go ahead and see this. Every single day, as you carry on, begin to observe how you can begin to shift those patterns, those deeply ingrained patterns. Breathing deeply. Go ahead and going to open the root chakra back up into a balanced state. Go ahead and clear that out. Daily energetic hygiene. The sacral, open it back up, clearing it out. The solar, open it up, clearing it out. And in each one of the chakras, especially the solar plexus, which is the emotional body, a lot of times you're going to feel heavy cords here. If you're feeling a lot of emotions, which a lot of us are feeling very heavy emotions with the celestial movements that are in our space right now, with all of the world energetic events that are happening right now, emotions are heightened tenfold. So it might feel harder to move through emotions at this time. So, that being said, release those emotional cords that you have with other people. Bring yourself into neutrality until you begin to teach yourself new ways of interacting with those emotions, reintegrating fragments of yourself. Go ahead and go to your heart. You're going to gently close that just a little bit, spinning as fast as possible, clearing out any cords in the heart. A lot of us are storing stuff in the back of our body. Clear all that heavy stuff. Stop carrying that baggage, that energetic baggage that we carry around with us. Feelings of unworthiness, all of these untruths about ourselves, unworthiness, not good enough, not lovable, not whatever it is that you believe. Let go of all of those beliefs. Breathing deeply. Going up into the neck, throat. Okay. Notice if you have any extra baggage that you're carrying in the throat around communication, around expression, around feminine, masculine expression, clear that out. That's a big one for our society at this time. Going up into the third eye, spinning it, clearing out those all of that baggage that we carry in the third eye. Going up to the ninth. And I want you to see a room with your contracts. Go ahead and visualize your daily room of contracts. Go ahead and see that room, a room filled with karmic contracts, all the agreements that you made coming into this life in order to experience and transcend the illusion of contrast and separation. Go ahead and see them in that room. You're going to shine your light on top of them and go ahead and clear that room out. Clear it out until it's completely empty. And you're going to fill that room with your color instead. So take your time to clear and eliminate. You can visualize burning it down. You can visualize opening the floor and everything is, leaving that room. You can visualize vanishing them, burning them, whatever feels real to you. Eliminate all of those karmic contracts. Breathing deeply. And immediately you're going to feel a very light feeling in your body as you do this. Okay. Fill that room with your crown color. It's like a weight is lifted from your body. Okay, this is shifting vibration. You just shifted your vibrational frequency. So as you fill that room with your color, you illuminate and you're changing now that you're no longer co-creating from karma, you're co-creating from free will, awareness, consciousness, and the creator state. Very good. Going up to the 9th and the 10th, illuminating the 10th. I think it was Joe that was having some dreams. This is the 10th. Go ahead and visualize spinning that chakra as fast as possible, clearing out all of those heavy dreams that you're having that are blocking. Anybody that's having really traumatizing heavy dreams or experiences with the other side that are creating fearful experiences, clear that out. Cut cords with all of those things that you're experiencing. Bring back your life force. Okay. Going up to the 11th, 12th, 13th. And above you is a powerful white light of source. Go ahead and connect up into that white light. This is who you are. You are pure infinite consciousness. Go ahead and bring that light into your body. This is who you are as you widen the source cord that goes through the body, through the crown of the head, down the spine, down to the perineum, anchoring into the earth. Anchoring into the earth. Widen your light. Expand your light. With every day, every healing that you do every day, you are clearing blockages in your field. You are expanding your light. You're becoming aware on multiple dimensions. So as you allow yourself to expand and embody, go ahead and open your eyes, bring yourself into the room. And with your eyes open, I want you to see your protective field, see your grounding, see your chakras connecting to source. And you're going to just take a snapshot of that. And regardless of what you do, maintain that visual at all times. That's having your eyes wide open. Okay. Thank you so much for working with me today, guys. Love you so much. I'm going to go ahead. I think there was an answer here that I wanted to answer. D. Elizabeth says, when my soul fragments off, can another person take those fragments? That's a very important question. It's complex, but it's like this. We experience a trauma in childhood. So in the moment, a fragment was created. When that fragment was created, belief systems, vibrational frequencies, and resonance is created in your organism. This creation creates a cord, a reference cord that links you back to this timeline, to this moment in time, which you are referencing at all times. It becomes your reality, this trauma. So what happens is that because it's not a complete truth, it's only one perception of a whole, you live your entire life in that resonance, completely glued to this reference point. It informs everything, your choices, your beliefs, your expression, your resonance. your entire resonance. So your organism is vibrating this. So that is a limitation of consciousness. It's basically the embodiment of unconsciousness, because your belief system is limited by an experience, and that's not the whole truth. So what happens is that this part of the trauma is actually embedded in a certain part of your body. That part of your body becomes unconscious. Most of the time, because of disassociation, we choose that trauma is so overwhelming that we disconnect from that part of the body. So what happens is that not only is it a part of the body, but it's a dimensional layer of your body. Usually in the first 3 layers up to the 7th layer are heavily impacted by that trauma, by this reference point. So what happens is that it begins to over time, reinforcing that traumatic belief creates more stagnation of energy in that part of your body, physical and energetic. And what happens is that because it's sleeping, entities, attachments, other beings, parasitic consciousness that's a match to that resonance begin to siphon life force through this rejection of consciousness. So, in other words, in a way, yes, consciousness, other parasites come in and can utilize that to bleed life source out of us. And this can happen through people, people that are embodying parasitic consciousness. They use that weakness, the unconscious parts of us, weaponize that against us through creating traumatic experiences, drain us of our life force. And because we're unaware, we happily just drain our life force without knowing because we're unconscious. This also happens when we leave our physical body, which is why integration is important. In dream time, you're no longer in the body. So now all of the parts of you that are stagnant are magnified in the non-physical realm. And they direct the kind of experiences that you have in the non-physical, 9, 10th, 11th dimensional plane. So you might be a match to other parasites in the non-physical, which is a heyday, because of course, all of these, we are constantly in and around all kinds of consciousness. We share so much space with different beings at all times. So we can attach all kinds of things to the body. But most important, what happens to the hologram of the body is that it becomes a host for artificial intelligence, for this kind of siphoning of life force. So healing is really important to this level, okay? But we don't really understand that until, boom, something happens that requests, it's the law of accident happens. We are in resonance with so much suffering that we create suffering in our life and attract experiences that force us to wake up in those parts. And oftentimes it's through that suffering that we wake up. So waking up on our own is much more advisable than going through the law of accident and having something shock you, in which you're like, oh yes, I remember, I have to be awake and I have to love myself and I have to be present. So please don't go down that path. Thank you. Let me know. I hope that answered that question. Catherine says, Brad says, I'll have to watch this again. It seems important for me. Oh, that's really great, Brad. I really hope this helps you. Joe says, I got turquoise. What does that mean? That's great. That's beautiful. Turquoise is a wonderful color. Notice that your colors are in the greens and blues. I explained that yesterday. Catherine says she's so precise in defining the healing process. Thank you. I'm glad you think so. Alina, you're amazing. So healing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Marija, thank you so much. Alina, please like so more can see this. Yes, please share. Please share with friends, with families, with all those that you think need healing at this time and are ready to do it. Don't send it to someone that's not ready, because they'll probably just ignore that. Brad M says, I'm thinking too much at times, Geraldine. I understand, but let's talk about it. What's happening? Is it the analytical mind? Are we in survival mode? Do we need to love ourselves and tell ourselves that we are good, we are loved? My mantra for the first 5 years was, I am love, I am loved, and I am lovable. Those 3 words, love, loved, and lovable, because it's kind of addressing all 3 dimensional planes: yourself, the other, and the environment, right? So if we understand that we are loved on all of those potential dimensions, you have no choice but to embody that love. And so that's kind of what we want to embody. Anita says, wonderful. Thank you so much, Geraldine. Nice. Joe says, wow. Alina, wow. Thank you. Angie, thank you, Geraldine. I have a lot of work to do. Let's do it. Ania says, yes, that answers my question. Thank you. So glad. Glenn says, keep flowing how you flow, Geraldine. You got an awesome flow. Cheers. Love you, Glenn. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, love you. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you tomorrow. All my love. Good job, warriors.